Hello, I'm Dahl Russell, and welcome to the first of my recorded pre-concert lectures. These are pre-concert lectures that I have given in the past, and I thought I would share them with you. Oh, a word about myself. I was a professional actress, East Coast and West Coast, mostly a theater actress for the majority of my career. Then when I came back to the East Coast, I was for 6 years a classical music host at an NPR affiliate station where I received several Associated Press awards, which was a nice feather in my cap. At the same time, I was pursuing my work as a professional harpist and singer, and currently I do that as well as teaching, and also I have part of my professional career as giving pre-concert lectures. I will say about my pre-concert lectures, I do not intend these to be the be-all and end-all definitive pre-concert lecture as all the information you're ever going to hear. I tread very lightly on the music theory aspect and the constructive aspects of the work of music itself. My pre-concert lectures are intended mainly, as I did on the air, to talk about the interplay of the arts during the lifetime of the composer, perhaps influences on the composer for that work, a little bit about their bio, and then also the sociological influences and how the writing, the philosophy, the art, and the music all kind of influenced each other within the lifetime of that composer. So what I say is other people do the serious stuff, I do the gossip. So I'm going to start with a work by Maurice Ravel. It's a great one to start with because most people have heard this piece of music. Most people know it as Pavanne for a Dead Princess. And this was the first of the pre-concert lectures that I gave for the Mid-Atlantic Symphony Orchestra, an orchestra based between Baltimore and the Eastern Shore that performs around the region. A professional orchestra conducted by Julien Bénichou. Maurice Ravel's Pavanne pour une Infante Defunte, Pavanne for a Dead Infanta. Ravel lived from 1875 to 1937. His father was a gifted amateur musician and his first teacher. At the age of 14, Ravel was admitted to the Paris Conservatory, and it is said that he stayed there for 15 years as a student. One teacher said he was the single most gifted student in counterpoint that he ever taught. Ravel was friends with fellow student Erik Satie, and while Satie's music was called trash by the establishment, this friendship produced work that one teacher of Ravel's called a conflict between scholarly severity and bold exploration. And that definition is really important throughout all of the works of Ravel. Fauré was one of Ravel's last teachers, and the influence of Fauré, many of whose works have a similar misty quality to the works of Debussy, can show us this direct through line in French music of the contemporaries of Ravel, and why sometimes critics felt that Ravel's work was derivative of Debussy. They were both known for this same kind of contradiction of classical technique and rule-breaking. This work, while it's well known, you may not know that this was the first of Ravel's famous works composed while he was a student. Today, we are most likely to hear this work performed as an orchestral work. It was, however, first a solo piano work, and 40 years ago, that would have been the version that was still best known. Today, in addition to the orchestral version, we're just as likely to hear it as a chamber work or as a duo for solo instrument and piano, or sometimes solo instrument and harp. Despite its slow pace, it's a devilishly difficult work for solo piano. It usually has two voices going on in each hand through much of the piece. And so for a chamber work, when you strip out the solo melody and give it to one instrument and then have another instrument play accompaniment, that makes it much easier, and hence the popularity of duo arrangements. This work was premiered as a piano work in 1902 at a concert of the Société Nationale. It was performed by Ricardo Viñas and paired with Ravel's Jeu d'eau, the play of water, another technically challenging virtuoso piano solo. The imagery of the title of this work is very important. Pavanne for a Dead Princess, so jarring. And because the title is framed in a way to refer to this princess as an infanta, the visceral combination of the death of an infant springs to mind, making this title even more jarring. Now, Ravel, at one point, said that the title really had nothing to do with the work. He named it this after the work was completed because he liked the juxtaposition of the words. That's important. In short, he knew it was a jarring and memorable title. He knew that when he insisted that the death was that of an infanta, a princess, that we still would not be able to shake the imagery of a dead infant. This is both good salesmanship, PR, and also a very perverse sense of humor. And that kind of in-your-face humor and imagery reminds us that he's one of the generation that spawned Erik Satie and Francis Poulenc, who were known for this kind of boundary pushing, both in terms of musical technical form and also in the place of music in society as a whole. It was a musical culture of instigating and nursing artistic scandals, and Ravel was very much a part of that culture. At the same time that Ravel was writing this work, and at the same time that he brought this work out, Mahler was composing his songs on the death of children, a song cycle that was creating a stir even before it was premiered. Ruckert wrote the poems that song cycle was based on, and it was inspired by the death of two of his own children from scarlet fever. And that had only been published in the mid-1870s, so relatively current. So these cultural elements were known and circulating when Ravel unveiled this work. In his comments about this work, Ravel often wanted it both ways. And like Satie, he knew that a little conflict could help publicity. On one hand, he said this piece is not a funereal piece, but insisted that it was simply meant to be the kind of Pavanne music to which the young princess would have danced. His caustic comment to one performer, "It's Pavanne for a dead princess, not dead Pavanne for a princess," is well known, but it completely contradicts things that have been written about Ravel's own performance of this work, which one critic referred to as interminably, unutterably slow. It's worth mentioning that the popularity of a work in Ravel's day was based as much on the sheet music sales as it was on performance. It was a time when every house had a piano, and in the same way that every house has a TV today or other media sources. The slowness of the work would have meant that many would purchase the sheet music thinking, "Oh, it's slow, I can play that." Only once they got it home and actually started working on it would they realize the technical complexities of the work. It's layered and it requires exceptionally strong individual finger technique. So because of that, it was not something you would hear in many homes except the most advanced players. But because of the sales, the audiences would have been aware of the music and known the music and understood how complex it was when they heard a performance of it. With it being popular, Ravel orchestrated this himself, giving the main melody to the horn. Ravel was known to conduct this work himself many times, and later in his career, he frequently consulted with conductors who were leading the work. When I first gave this concert lecture, it was the opening work in the concert. And often, as most of you will know, concerts usually open with a big bang or something very exciting. So this was an unusual choice to open the concert because it settles everyone down into kind of peaceful and wistful emotional world. This interplay of memory and of modern works that refer in form to inspirations of the past. Enjoy.